Welcome to part two of my conversation with Bridget Girard. We've had a great conversation already, and you'll find that in part one, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Podcast or any number of other podcast platforms. But Bridget Girard has lived and worked in our riding for a lifetime as a teacher and administrator with the Catholic School Board. She and her family have lived their life here. On April 28th, you have a chance to vote for her, and she's running under the Liberal banner to represent Bowmanville Oshawa North. And it's a great pleasure to have Bridget here and meeting me here at exit 425 for part two of our conversation. Today's guest at exit 425.
In the main corridor of exit 425.
Local politicians to connect with families.
What are some unique challenges?
Thanks very much, Steve, for having me.
Exit 425. It's where we live. Bridget, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
So we left off talking about several different issues and how a Liberal Carney Girard government would manage those things. Let's bring that local now, because several local officials and non-government people have shared on exit 425 the increased concern for the poor and homeless, with unhoused refugees complicating the situation even more. Are they connected, and how would you fix this?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So perhaps 20 years ago, this might not have been as much of a conversation, particularly in Clarington or North Oshawa at the time. It's really important that the federal government is a strong partner to the municipalities and to the province in terms of funding. I had the opportunity to attend the Ecumenical Women's Dinner last week in Bowmanville, and we had a presentation by Jennifer Gardner, who works for the Clarington Libraries, Museums, and Archives.
She's been a guest on Exit 425.
And what an incredible person, in terms of the work that they're doing. It would be unimaginable years ago to think that our libraries are playing such a fundamental role for people who are unhoused or people who are having a hard time finding their way in our community. But they do offer the John Howard Society to help people with housing. They have people helping new Canadians and refugees to ensure that they have the correct paperwork and to get them and help. And they have even a food pantry there. So it's very important that our social services are appropriately funded. In terms of refugees, that's certainly a federal issue. We have to ensure that the people who come to our area, that there are enough social services and housing to support them. And the details on that, certainly, we have to ensure that the infrastructure is here. And that would be between the three levels of government to help support.
How can we reconcile our northern climate, limited farmland, which is really 1/8 of what the USA has, and food security, and along with that, the need to build more homes? You were history, civics. I was more geography, politics, world issues. I know that the best place to grow food is also the best land to build houses on, because it's the easiest. And so I'm not saying that nobody's building homes or making some sort of effort, but is there a creative solution so that respects the capacity to grow food? And how does the federal government promote housing development? Is that not a market demand issue?
So there's a lot to unpack in that one question, but in terms of
there, that's why we needed a part two.
yes, in terms of food security, and that's even more evident now with the trade war being inflicted on us by the Trump-Vance White House, right? So our erstwhile closest trading partner now is putting tariffs on goods we export And I know that we're retaliating as well. So it becomes very challenging. Um, there has to be a balance. We live in an area that's adjacent to the green belt, right? So very sensitive lands. We have to ensure that we're consulting with the people who do have the answers to what land is appropriate to be built on and what land can be um, saved for either green space or farming. So that must be respected. I know the Carney government is also looking at federal lands and turning those lands that are not being used into housing. Also, houses are important, homes are important, but we also have to have housing for people who might not be in the market to buy a home, but for renters.
Hmm.
We need some high density housing, and we have a bit more of that in the area now in North Oshawa and Clarington. So that's important as well. Hopefully that, Steve, do you know when that GO train's coming? Because I know that's
Does
going to bring
anybody
more
know?
people. That's going to bring more people to our area, right? Because it's going to make our area more accessible to people who work closer to the center. So, in terms of food security, also investing in technologies, we have amazing farms, local growers in this area. So, we have to ensure that the economic conditions are such that they are able to
Hmm.
sustain and to make a good living. That is very, very important, and especially in the face of tariffs and what President Trump and Vance might say are anti-trade things that we do. We have to support our local farmers. Absolutely, they are. Uh, I don't want to say they're the bedrock of the community, but they feed us all
Hmm.
around. We just have to look around. We have to look around here. We have orchards. We have corn. We have many different crops, like I think over 200 smaller farms that they need our support. And it's really important that economically we do promote them as well. And there's a lot of technology as well, new technology growing in greenhouses that can help increase our food security as well, looking at non-traditional places to grow food. So investing in that type of technology.
So you had talked earlier about Mr. Carney's proposal to build 500,000 new homes. Um, any more details than that kind of announcement that you might be able to share?
Yes, so Mr. Carney spoke about how after World War II, many
Hmm.
homes were built for the service, men and women coming home, starting families, and those homes are still around today.
Hmm.
They were well built, and they're still going strong. These are not typical times, like the 40s. That was not a typical time either. So the plan to build 500,000 new homes a year is multifaceted. One, it's a new market for our softwood lumber, steel, aluminum, all of those industries being hurt by these tariffs.
Hmm.
So it brings a new market. Unfortunately, and this is just the way capitalism and the market works, developers want to make money, and that makes absolute sense. That's our economy. But if we totally left it free to the market, we'd be in the same situation we are now. So that's why the government at this time in history is getting into the business of building affordable homes. So it addresses materials, it addresses affordability. It also gives tremendous opportunity to make us one of the strongest countries in the G7 in terms of our economy. All of those young people looking for jobs, our government would our government is planning on investing in skilled tradespeople. So it's multifaceted. It's trade, it's affordable housing, it's jobs, right? For those skilled tradespeople to be working on building affordable housing, and then back to the consumer. So yes, it is different, but I think we need to think differently in this situation creatively. We should be, and we are, one of the richest nations in the world. We have 40 million people. We are the second largest country in terms of landmass in the world. And we have abundant resources. So being creative in this time of economic crisis is a real opportunity. And I think it will be a benefit to all Canadians.
In part one, we got talking a little bit about trade. And so an opportunity to address that with a bullseye right now. The trade issues with the USA have made us more appreciative of Canada for now, but also more aware of our vulnerabilities. First of all, around jobs. Secondly, around energy. You just mentioned energy again. So it's helped us think about our vulnerabilities in terms of energy with renewed interest in that east-west, I guess called Canada East pipeline. There's trade and food security, which we just talked about. How will your government address these issues that we haven't already addressed?
So first of all, I'd like to say that my heart is with everybody in our district and in our country. These are issues, but we're talking about people and families. When President Trump and Vice President Vance set their sights on us, I felt physically ill. I felt sick. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that our erstwhile best friend and ally would try to make an example of us for the world because we're peaceful. It's like the bully on the schoolyard who will look around and see the most defenseless student minding their own business and go over there and sock them just to teach a lesson to the other kids. That's what it feels like. So I'm feeling for all of my neighbors, all of the people across Canada who are actually facing losing their jobs, maybe losing their homes. Think of the stress in the families of the people in our riding and elsewhere. I'm talking about our riding because that's what this election is, but the rest of Canada, it's absolutely appalling. And it's the main reason why I decided to run, because of this situation. So we need to take it seriously. We need to, first of all, care for the people of our riding and of our country who are affected by this issue, but it's about the people. So there's a $2 billion response by the Carney government, or if we're elected, the Carney government, to ensure, well, I think that actually was put in place before the election, to ensure people who have lost their jobs will be supported economically. There's also been the employment insurance wait time has been reduced. And then also funds going into the smaller companies. You know, if you think one auto job, I've heard anywhere from 6 to 10 other jobs in our area are linked to auto. So we need to stand by all of the people in our community with this trade war. It comes down to the people, to our neighbors. So we're doing that, and we will do that as a government. We need to diversify our markets and diversify our products as well. Look for outside markets and also use our labor, our materials, our markets within Canada. Mr. Carney has, we have 13 economies in Canada from the provinces and the territories. Minister Freeland is in charge of that, and we're working at breaking down those inter-provincial trade barriers. I understand the reason for them in the past. Say in a province they had a very strong, small province. Maybe they have a brewery and they don't want to be flooded from the other provinces. That was the reason for those types of inter-provincial trade barriers, to ensure the local industries are supported and protected. Right? I understand the reason for them. But now that our markets have been severed and attacked. We need to have one strong economy, and certainly I have my faith in Mr. Carney. Incredible economist. He worked in the private system, Goldman Sachs. He worked in the bureaucracy for the Canadian government, governor of the Bank of Canada, Bank of England. I think I mentioned this in the last episode. We have one of the greatest minds, not only in Canada, but in the world, as our prime minister, and asking to be your prime minister. Mr. Carney is absolutely the man for the time to protect, build, and grow our economy. And he does have an in-depth plan. He's not a politician. He's not a three-word slogan man. So in his interviews, and he takes interview questions, right? He allows the media to approach and answer questions. He's being very thoughtful about it. He doesn't have those sharp, punchy answers of a professional opposition leader. He's very thoughtful. He's very mindful. He has a plan for trade. But it all circles back to protecting the workers, protecting the people of Bowmanville Oshawa North. Because when our neighbors are suffering, we're all suffering. So that's the number one piece for trade.
And as you mentioned before, we can't count on that friendship, any kind of deal that we might have with the USA. In fact, I mean, our trade deal that was signed by President Trump in his last term is the one that he's railing against the most, which is one of many things that puzzles so many of us about this whole situation. So I did detect a bit of a tone change between his conversations with Prime Minister Trudeau and those with Prime Minister Carney. So that's hopeful. But if it forces us to look at our own situation and deal with some of those things and feel a little bit more prideful of Canada, and you see in grocery stores they're putting up maple leaves on things and making sure that we know what is made in Canada and we can shop appropriately. And that's kind of where it starts for everybody, right? So
I agree. We didn't
all these
start
other
this trade
things.
war. We didn't start
The
this
what?
trade war, right? We didn't start this. We would never wish this. We would never want this. It's appalling. But now that we're here with Prime Minister Carney, with the Liberal Party, we're going to work to modernize, improve, solidify, and ensure that we're protected. And I will work tirelessly. And I know Prime Minister Carney will as well.
I'm about as centrist and small c conservative as anybody, and my life has kind of reflected that in so many different ways. So I'm looking for that centrist type of a leader that speaks and behaves like an adult. Will Prime Minister Carney, be very different from the Trudeau government that so many people ended up not liking and getting rather tired of?
Yeah, Prime Minister Carney, I think the first time I saw him was when he went on the Jon Stewart show before he put his name in. I mean, I saw him as Bank of Canada, Bank of England, but in terms of leadership for the Liberals. And yeah, his tone is different. He calls himself a pragmatist, a centrist. He said, and I quote, "Canada has given me everything. I'm going to give everything to Canada." He is here to work for the people of Canada. And I know you're saying centrist. I don't think he identifies himself left or right. He's a pragmatist. He wants to do what's best. He's been in business, economics, banking, but he also is compassionate and loves Canada and everything that makes Canada Canadian. He also has a bit of a sense of humor. And even in these difficult times, he had a very cute couple of ads with Mike Myers. I don't know if you saw that, because he knows we can't just throw economic solutions at Canadians. We're dealing with people who are, I was at the door the other day A woman was crying about what was happening to our country, the attacks, right? We need to talk to people's hearts. And he's a genuine person. And, there was an announcement, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago that he knows people are hurting. Canada's national parks are going to be free this summer. Museums are going to be free, the national ones, and via rail travel for children, because he's trying to address not just the high level economics, but also how can he serve the people of Canada. So, anyways, I don't know if that answers your centrist piece, but he is my estimation, and if we just look at his track record, he is a centrist. He's worked with liberals, he's worked with conservatives, he's worked with people around the world, and he's universally respected. And I think his tone has already shifted. He didn't rush down to when he was sworn in as prime minister. He said, "I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till we're treated with respect as a country." And he had a respectful conversation with President Trump. We can't control President Trump, but I have faith in Mr. Carney that he'll do the best job possible, certainly for our nation.
You mentioned like everyday Canadians, and you and I are pretty much that, right? And so many others that maybe aren't even as attuned to things that are civics and politics as you and I are. So everyday Canadians, they're trying to reconcile a fourth term for a party under the leadership of there's no question that he's a very talented, accomplished man who took over from a very unliked prime minister, but he has some strong connections to that, and still there's, the party establishment, there's a lot of continuation there. Um, he's fumbled some of the finer points of the election, which goes to him being less of a politician and more of a leader, and more of I don't know what the word would be, pragmatist, getting things done. He's not so
Mm-hmm.
concerned about being fancy, put it that way. Um, Now, he's up against a seasoned politician. There is no question that Mr. Polyev is a seasoned politician who has a reputation as an attack dog. He's hitting some key points with the public, has come across to some like, um, you know, just the grade 10 kid, I don't know, that sits halfway back, left side of the room, who's just always got that answer. So there's something that's a little bit unappealing to him as well. But he's never worked outside of Parliament, and now is starting to talk like an adult, but wants us to have our money to spend. So, how do people reconcile all that? How do they balance that? Because I know some people very close to me that are having a hard time saying, okay, candidate, leader versus leader. How do I sort that out? How do I choose? What what are some things that come to mind when people, I'm sure, have shared that at the door with you? And what do you say to them? What's the answer?
Yeah, no, I hear you. Um, the question for this election is who is best poised to lead us and to serve us in these next 4 years of economic turmoil in the face of threats from the United States. And Prime Minister Carney was not part of the previous government, and he's very focused on protecting, building, and growing, protecting our people, building our industry, growing our economy. We were both in education. I don't think in 30 years I had to say negative things about people. We were always trying to uplift, see the good in all. So that's really a shift, becoming a politician in the last few weeks from being in education. So it's difficult, but I realize it's a short election and I really have to speak truth. So Mr. Polyev is talented. He's a good parliamentarian in terms of being the opposition leader. Opposers will oppose. That's what his role is. He's His Majesty's loyal leader of the loyal opposition. That's his role. And he did, in the last year or so, capture anger and real sentiment of people who saw, affordability issues and concerned about what was happening. So he's done that effectively. And I think that's when you saw the big polls and people, all governments around the world, leaders will have their best before dates. And we saw that with Prime Minister Harper before. People, he was, I don't know if he was ever beloved, but he was well respected. And then at the end of his term, people had had enough at that point. Prime Minister Carney is not Prime Minister Trudeau. Prime Minister Trudeau achieved a lot for Canadians as well. But no one thought we would be in the economic crisis that we are today. No one did. And Prime Minister Carney is the person for the moment to deal with Donald Trump. Prime Minister Carney has already taken measures in the short time that he's been Prime Minister to protect our country, economically and otherwise, militarily. Mr. Poilievre, although, he's very smart, absolutely. He's a good orator, and he's served our country. He's served our country as a member of Parliament and as leader of the opposition, so I want to give him his props there. His vision of Canada is fundamentally different from the Liberals' vision of Canada. And even his whole approach is so off-putting. I'm a mom of 3 young women. He in speeches has talked about women's biological clocks. I do not want that man to be my prime minister. How awful is that? And he didn't say it once, he said it repeatedly. He would rather slash our social programs than build us up. When he was member of Parliament under Stephen Harper, he voted to raise our retirement age to 67. Like, he's not the person for the job. And his ideology and his tone are very closely aligned with Donald Trump. So in terms of at the door, obviously the door would be closed if I gave that answer. I'm sorry, I should have done it. I talk too much. I talk too much. I'm sorry. But Prime Minister Carney has the experience and the plan to lead us through these times. So
Excellent. Thank you for taking the time out of your campaign to meet me here at Exit 425. Do you have any other final thoughts, maybe something that we didn't talk about that you could share for a minute or so?
Yes, I do. So the member of Parliament, the previous member of Parliament, Mr. Giovanni, again, I spoke about how as a teacher, as a principal, you want to lift everybody up. And I do find he has an impressive story. And he's lived quite an interesting life, and he's accomplished much. So I want to say those things. And I wish him well as a person. This isn't about ad hominem attacks. This is about fundamental differences in ideology and policy. Mr. Giovanni moved to this riding likely because Erin O'Toole was retiring. Erin O'Toole treated appallingly by the Conservative Party under Mr. Poilievre, and we haven't really talked about that. He was leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and treated appallingly by the Conservative Party of Canada. He served in our military. He was our member of Parliament. Anyways, when he retired from politics, Mr. Giovanni came in and he won that nomination, and he won a resounding by-election last March. I believe he didn't participate in any debates, and he still won. I think turnout was a record low. It was quite low here for the turnout, maybe in the 20% of eligible voters. So I don't think people knew too much about his ideology, but he's shown us what his ideology is in the last year. His ideology is very closely aligned with MAGA ideology. On his government website, his Member of Parliament website, I should say, not government website, he has a few petitions. One is to end DEI. So I don't remember that ever being an issue, a pertinent issue in Durham. but it is very closely aligned to the Trump-Vance White House. I'm not too sure what that has to do with affordability and the real needs of the people here. If you look up on his committee work, which you can see videos of, he wants to get rid of our public broadcaster, CBC. So you can see him grilling Catherine Tate, the head of the CBC. In this time where the oligarchs are hand in hand with the Trump-Vance White House, we need a strong national broadcaster to tell Canada's story. We're 1/10 the size of the United States. So he, along with Mr. Poilievre, wants to get rid of our national broadcaster, which was actually brought into existence in the 30s by R.B. Bennett, Conservative Prime Minister, right? It is appalling to believe that they want to strip Canadians of one of the only ways that we can get a national vote out there. But more shockingly, at this time where we're being attacked by the US administration, people are losing their jobs or threatened to lose their jobs in our auto industry and all of our industries here at manufacturing. Mr. Giovanni has not said anything about the tariffs other than to blame the Canadian government. So he hasn't denounced Donald Trump and his best friend J.D. Vance. He said it's a direct result of the toxic relationship with the Canadian government and Donald Trump. The lowest bar as your member of parliament is to protect the people of your riding. That's the given. And instead, he's decided to side with Donald Trump. And when I say best friend, it's literally his best friend. That's not the problem, that J.D. Vance is his best friend. The problem is that administration is wanting our destruction as a nation economically so that we can be annexed. And he has not come out and denounced them. And in fact, he attended the Trump inauguration. He was a special guest of that inauguration, and he visited J.D. Vance December 8th as well. And instead of denouncing, he's blamed the Canadian government for what's happening to the people of our riding and our nation. And I find that appalling. And I think he needs to be held to account. And this is where the lack of local media really is unfortunate. So I do call on Mr. Giovanni to stand for the people of Bowmanville Oshawa North. Because if I wasn't running, I would be knocking on doors every day for whichever candidate would be.
I appreciate those thoughts, and I appreciate again your time that you've spent with me putting together these two interviews. And I respect everybody who runs and puts their name forward for political office, because all of a sudden you've just laid your life bare, and people that you don't even know are commenting on your everything about you on social media. So I appreciate you making yourself vulnerable with your vision of Canada to try to serve us in a more formal way. So, Bridget, how can we reach you? How can we learn more about you on social media?
So I have a website for this election. It's bridgetgirard.liberal.ca. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And on the website, you can find my campaign office phone number. And I really, as I said in the previous interview, I really feel the weight of asking to be your member of parliament. So I do wish to get out and speak to as many people as possible, but I hope you reach out. And I really want to thank everybody for every interaction I've had during this election time. Just a reminder, advance polls are April 18th to 21st. And if you need a special ballot, reach out. elections.ca has information on how you can make sure that the most precious thing we have as a citizen, the opportunity to vote, that you have the opportunity to exercise that vote. And the
Excellent.
election's April 28th.
That's a great reminder, and I'll
Yes.
post those links. Elections.ca is a source of a ton of information. I've done a TikTok video and Instagram video on that, and it's just chock full of information. And you'll note that only two candidates have lots of contact information on their elections.ca chart that they have there for you. So thank you once again. I appreciate it. I know you've got some campaigning to do and canvassing to do, and the preparation for this and actually doing this interview, uh, greatly appreciate it. It fits the mission that we're trying to achieve for our electoral district or riding. So thank you once again.
And thank you, Steve, for all your work bringing the voice of our riding and our region to everyone. So thank you so much.